Oh yeah. Here we go. The Tag Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tag Talk. My name's Terence Curran. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and your host of Tag Talk. Here today, we're going to be discussing Alcohol Awareness Month, which is the month of April, and we're really looking forward to some interesting topics. And one of those discussions is what happens when somebody is actually drunk on your job site. In construction, we know that there's some historical facts, as in 12% of alcohol use disorder compared to 7.5% national. Around 50% of all construction workers in the United States have a substance abuse disorder compared to the 8.6 of the general population. So today we brought in a drug recognition expert that works with one of the local police departments here in Florida to discuss this service and what opportunities we have to interview employees on a job site or see if they are impaired at that time.
So I'm Officer Campbell. I'm a police officer for a local agency here in Central Florida. Part of my responsibilities as a police officer is to investigate people who are operating vehicles while under the influence of alcohol and or drugs.
So Officer Campbell, tell me, what is a DRE?
So a DRE is an officer that can conduct an evaluation on an individual to determine whether or not they are impaired. Specifically, we're looking to see, one, are they impaired? Two, if the impairment is medical or drug related. And three, if it is drug related, what drug category or categories they may be under the influence of.
Is every police officer a DRE?
Not every police officer is a DRE. It is a small percentage. It's less than 1% of all law enforcement officers nationwide that do achieve the rank of drug recognition expert.
What kind of training do you go through to become a DRE?
So in order to become a DRE, there's a lot of prerequisites that have to take place. I have to be trained in DWI detection and standardized field sobriety exercises. There is a second course called the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement course. The first one that I mentioned is the alcohol-related impairment, which teaches the officer how to conduct a basic DUI investigation. The second one introduces drug impairment to that officer. And then with those two courses, along with experience in the world of DUI, then an officer can become a drug recognition expert by taking several hours of courses.
All right, so it sounds like you have to do this over a course of a number of years, or is it an immediate, once you become a police officer, you can go for this training?
It's not immediate. You have to at least have 3 years of service as a law enforcement officer here in Florida. And then again, with the experience, the training in itself is about 2 weeks of classroom portion. And then there is field certifications where we are actually conducting evaluations on individuals to determine whether or not they are under the influence of drugs. And then there is a final test that an officer would have to take. So the process in itself could be a couple months in itself.
Wow, so it sounds like a lot of dedicated time.
It is.
All right. So one thing that we started to discuss earlier as an intro is alcohol abuse on construction sites.
Okay.
So our industry, we work on construction sites, we provide the medical support to them and also the safety consulting. Typically, we find beer cans or beer bottles sometimes on job sites, typically between lunch. So one of the things that we wanted to bring you in here for today is we have a volunteer that has been drinking specific liquor, and he's doing 5 ounces of liquor over a period of 30 minutes. Standard lunch break is an hour, but we figured between drive time to the restaurant or wherever they are on the project, have 30 minutes trying to consume this alcohol and then returning to the work. So what we'd like to do today is see what a field sobriety test is, or if you can walk us through what one of those are, and then also possibly do a breathalyzer on them.
Okay.
So what is a field sobriety test? How does that work? Is it just like the movies?
Not just like the movies. I've seen some shows where it kind of mimics it. However, field sobriety, we call them exercises here in Florida. What they are divided attention tasks for a subject to demonstrate whether or not they are impaired. Ideally, especially when it comes to driving a vehicle, a person's having to divide their attention while operating the vehicle. The ability to, one, drive a vehicle, to maintain a posture while driving the vehicle, controlling the steering wheel, controlling their foot on the pedals, the ability to see what's going on around them so that they're maintaining their safety. So these exercises were created to help an officer gauge whether or not a person's normal faculties are impaired by having them perform these divided attention tasks, or what are called field sobriety exercises.
Okay, so you're saying vehicle, a motor vehicle. Does that mean it could be a golf cart, a gator?
Yes.
A forklift?
So Florida law says that anybody who operates a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol and or drugs, to the extent that the normal faculties are impaired, can be charged with DUI. So yes, you would automatically assume a motor vehicle, so the cars that we drive, the trucks. However, it also includes heavy machinery such as anything on wheels that you would find on a construction site. So your forklifts, your dump trucks, cranes, anything that operates on operate on wheels that's not attached to a track is considered a vehicle in Florida.
So in the construction industry, it's interesting. People might not know that just because they're operating a gator or one of the heavy machineries on the project, that it actually could turn into a DUI for them.
Absolutely, especially when you're throwing people's safety in the aspect, in all things considered, because if they're operating these vehicles on the construction sites and they hit something, now you're looking at a crash, or if they run over somebody, now you're looking at the serious bodily injury aspect that could come along with it, which enhances the penalties of operating the vehicle while under the influence.
So can you walk me through, if I was to call a DRE, which I know we can call you guys out onto the job site just to verify somebody is under the influence, what does that process look like? What do you do when you just walk up?
So there's going to be a conversation with the individual. I mean, it does have to be voluntary on this aspect because, again, we're being called out to help the construction company. So there's going to be conversations. If it's alcohol, then I'm going to limit it to the field sobriety exercises that I use on roadside when I'm conducting a traffic stop. If it's drug impairment related, then I will see if the subject's going to be willing to participate in an evaluation with me, which is going to be more in depth than just the field sobriety exercises, because there's a lot of things that have to be considered in order to truly say somebody's impaired by drugs.
Okay. So are you able to tell any type of drug, like personal prescriptions, or is it just illicit drugs?
So it's not a specific drug that I'm going to be saying this person's under the influence of, because that's not a thing. But what I'm looking for is whether or not they are exhibiting the indicators and clinical indicators and general indicators that are consistent with a drug category. Now, whatever the specific drug is going to fall under these categories, but I'm going to be calling a overall category that these specific drugs fall under, not specifically naming, oh, this person's under the influence of Xanax, this person's under the influence of cocaine. It's going to be they're under the influence of a CNS depressant, under the influence of CNS stimulant, stuff like that.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I was just thought if you're just going to pick a random bottle out of the cabinet and say, yep, this is what they're taking.
We don't do that. It can't be done, but we can pick the general category that those drugs fall under.
Okay.
But it's not going to be specifically naming the type of drug. Now, whether they admit to certain things, that's a different story, but that can be used by you as the employer, as far as saying, well, he admitted to being under the influence of this, which is consistent with the DRE's finding of the drug category, whatever.
You'll probably find this as an interesting fact, but years ago, we had an interesting encounter while we were going to do a drug test on somebody. They walked up and said, hey, I'm going to pop hot for heroin. And we were like, okay, thanks for letting us know. And he goes, yeah, my wife puts it in my cereal. It tastes good.
That's kind of a weird excuse.
Weird.
I don't know how far that's going to hold up anywhere, but
I don't know. I mean, he ended up just checkmarking the box that he did heroin and signed off on the line and left the job site. But it was a pretty interesting encounter.
That is interesting. Absolutely.
Most of the time, we usually they walk in the door, see a drug test kit, and go, see ya,
right,
and walk off the job site and walk away.
Absolutely.
But so you did the DRE exam, you talked to them, you feel that they're under some certain influence. What's the next step after that? Do you have to verify it in some way, or is it just the court takes your word for it that this person's under the influence?
It depends. If it's alcohol, then I'm going to stick to the 3 field sobriety exercises. If it's drugs, then there's a 12-step evaluation process. So if I make a decision to arrest, it is solely based on the field sobriety exercises on roadside. So okay. You're looking at the horizontal gaze and nystagmus, or what people refer to as the eye exam. The walk and turn, where you walk the straight line, and then standing on one foot, what we call the one-leg stand.
There's no A to Z.
No A to Z. We're not going. No, you don't have to go Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T. No, none of that.
You got pretty far.
I did, and I could have kept going further, but I didn't want to embarrass myself on video by getting something wrong. But if I make the arrest, it is based on my observations, and it's actually not just on the field sobriety exercises. It's on the entire process of when I first observed your vehicle moving to my contact with you, speaking with you, did you exhibit indicators of impairment, and then as well as the field sobriety exercises that I'm using as the totality of the circumstances. And so, you know, if I did come out to the job site, like I said, it would involve me talking with somebody about, you know, really it could be anything. It'd just be like, hey, how's your day going? And what I'm doing is assessing and looking at whether or not that person's exhibiting indicators of impairment. Like, do they have the odor of an alcoholic beverage on their breath? Do you have glassy bloodshot eyes? How are their speech? Are they slurring? Are they talking slow? How are their movements? Is it slow? And stuff like that. So there's the evaluating of speaking with somebody before I ever get to the field sobriety exercises. And then there's things that I look for during that portion as well.
So not like the movies.
No, not like the movies where they
like
just
the
go,
movies,
nah,
they just
I
walk
think you're
up.
drunk, you're under arrest.
You're
Yeah,
under
it's not like
arrest.
that.
Yeah, no. So CSI.
Correct.
Yeah, all fake.
All fake.
All right. Well, that's depressing. All right. So what kind of tests are we going to perform on our volunteer today?
So because this is going to be an alcohol-related impairment, I'm going to be doing the horizontal gaze nystagmus, which I'm going to check his eyes, and then the walk and turn where he's going to walk the line, which there's plenty for us to use here, and then the one leg stand where he's evaluated while standing on one foot for a set period of time.
All right. Well, great. Well, I think we've Stu's been drinking now for probably almost 30 minutes.
Yes.
So I think we're going to be able
Looks
to.
like he's having fun back there.
Yeah. Have you completed all 5 ounces? Yep. All right.
Glass
well,
is
I think
empty.
we can. I think we can start this test.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's go.
All right, so I'm here with my friend who we'll refer to as Bob. At this point, I would have been called to the construction site. Maybe I've stopped the vehicle. I would have already had the conversation before we're ever at this point of standing outside together. So naturally, there will be some indicators of impairment exhibited by him, and I'm starting to see the eyes go glassy, and I can smell the alcohol in his breath. Clearly, he's been drinking. So the conversation would already be over. And now I'm going to move into the field sobriety exercises to determine whether or not his normal faculties are impaired, which we're also assuming that he agreed to. Yes. See, there we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is get Bob here standing in a position where I need him to be. So it's going to be with your feet together and arms just down to your side, okay? So what I'm going to have you do is there's a glowing red light right there. Okay. What I need you to do is just stare at that light, okay? And I'm going to move the stimulus from side to side. When the red light moves, what I need you to do is follow it with your eyes only and do not move your head. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm gonna have you tilt your head down a little bit. All right. So the purpose of this is because there are certain drugs that causes involuntary jerking in the eyes when the person consumes them. First things first, I just make sure that the eyes track equally, and then I go into the 3 validated clues that nope, don't move your head for me.
Sorry.
And I go into the 3 validated clues that I look for as an officer to determine whether or not a person's impaired. So this next one is where we're going to get into the divided attention task, where it's going to be involving you having to conduct some sort of physical task as well as listen to the instructions and then performing the instructions as I give them and as I demonstrate. So the first things first is you can obviously see the white line in front of you. All right, so what we're going to do is the walk and turn, and it's going to be on this line right here that you can see in front of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so to begin, I'm going to give you the instructions. I'm going to place you in a stance, give the instructions, so make sure you're paying attention and listen to them, and then you'll be able to perform the exercise as I instructed and as I demonstrate for you, okay? Yes, so what I need you to do is go ahead and place your left foot on that line.
Just my left foot?
Just your left foot. Okay. Now take your right foot, place it in front of your left, touching heel to toe just like this, and keep your arms down to your side. Maintain this balance and stance and do not begin until I give you the instructions to begin. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So when I tell you to begin, I need you to take 9 heel to toe steps down the line. You're going to turn around keeping one foot on the line and return 9 heel to toe steps back. It's going to look like this. 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go all the way to 9. Now on your 9th step, leave your front foot on the line and with your back foot, turn by taking a series of small steps, and then return 9 heel to toe steps back. While walking, watch your feet at all times. Count your steps out loud. Keep your arms down to your side. Once you start walking, do not stop or pause until you've completed this entire exercise.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand the instructions that I've given you?
Yes, sir.
You may begin.
6, 7, 8, 9. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009.
So the last one we're going to do is what's called the one leg stand. It's where he's going to balance on one leg for a set period of time that I'm going to control. All right, so what I need you to do is go ahead and stand with your feet together and arms down to your side, just like you were doing earlier, okay? Again, hold this position. Please do not begin until I give you the instruction to do so.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So when I give you the instructions to begin, I need you to raise one foot, either foot of your choosing, approximately 6 inches off the ground, foot pointed out parallel with the ground.
Yes, sir.
While holding that position, you're going to count out loud 1001, 1002, 1003, so on and so forth until I tell you to stop.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're going to keep your eyes on the elevated foot and your arms down to your side, and you're going to keep both legs straight. Okay? Do you understand the instructions?
Yes.
It's going to look like this: 1001, 1002, 1003, and so on and so forth again until I tell you to stop.
Yes, sir.
I do not want you to put your foot down. If you do, pick the same foot back up and continue counting from the last number you stopped at.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand the instructions I've given you?
Yes, sir.
All right. You may begin.
1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So stop. All right, we're at a .07.
All right, .07. Pretty good after 30 minutes of drinking.
So when I'm looking at impairment, it's again based on the totality of the circumstances of when I'm interacting with the subject. So, you know, speaking with them, how they perform on the field sobriety exercises is what I'm looking for. So just because he was at a .07 here doesn't necessarily mean he's not impaired.
So let's just say during lunch break, he had food. Would it have actually helped or made it a little bit more higher on the alcohol content?
When you have food, there's a valve in your stomach that is closed because it has to allow the food to digest in your stomach. And so when you drink alcohol with this valve closed in your stomach, the alcohol is staying in the stomach. Now, only 20% of alcohol is actually absorbed through the stomach walls into the system, whereas the remaining 80% is waiting for that valve to open so it can go ahead and enter the intestines to get processed through the body like it typically would.
Officer Campbell, I appreciate your time today and coming on out and working with us, and I appreciate our volunteer for stepping up to drink today with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for being here and providing your expertise in this market, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on our Tag Talk today. We're so excited to have them brought back to us and look forward to talking to you in the future. Next video is going to be on May 23rd. We'll be interviewing Joe Xavier from ABC National, Michelle Doherty from ABC Central Florida on Total Human Health. Keep your eyes out, and thank you for your support.